Welcome to Sakshi TV's special immigration show with attorney Ms. Prashanthi Reddy from Law Officers of Prashanthi Reddy, PLLC. Please note that Sakshi TV now has 3 immigration shows every week. On Tuesday at 3 p.m. EST with attorney Sheila Murthy, Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m. EST with attorney Prashanthi Reddy in English, and on Friday at 6 p.m. EST with Banu Ilindra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on this show is not a legal advice and for general informational purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for use of information. If you need specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. Ms. Prashanthi needs no introduction, but if you need consultation, please log on to www.reddysq.com for contact information. When you connect with them, don't forget to mention Sakshi TV. From the beginning, ReddyESQ.com has put a wealth of free information and online tools in the hands of immigrant community and for the benefit of US employers. The www.ReddyESQ.com site provides you with the latest and cutting-edge information on US immigration laws and policies explained in terms you do not have to be a lawyer to understand. Today's topic is H1b registration process, challenges and consequences. We will continue the knowledge session along with the news and updates on the latest immigration followed by Q&A. Before we get into the topic, you can call us on the numbers on the screen for questions related to immigration and also ask for tips. Hello, Ms. Prashanthi. Please, before we get on to the topic, can you give us any latest immigration updates this week?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for having me on the show. I thought, Shivani, that we'll talk about the visa bulletin because the visa bulletin came out today, so it's the hot topic. You can't have news that is fresher than this. So I wanted to just tell our viewers about what happened with reference to the visa bulletin. And the visa bulletin information has come out for the month of March today. So for those of you who don't know, visa bulletin indicates the green card numbers that are presently being filed. So if your number is in the visa bulletin and it is that number or after that number, then you can file. Sorry, after that or that number or before that number, sorry, you can file. So for example, and there are several categories in the visa bulletin. There is employment-based categories, EB1, EB2, and EB3. There's family-based categories. So you have to go to the bulletin and look at your appropriate category. So we're only going to be talking about employment-based because that has been the hot topic and there has been movement, and I think our viewers will be interested in knowing that with reference to the March visa bulletin, the EB2 India dates have moved up by 4 months. So now if your priority date is January 1, 2013 or earlier, so actually it's moved from January to May 1, 2013. So if your priority date is May 1, 2013 under EB2 or earlier, then you can file your 485. And the 485 gives you a lot of benefits. It ultimately gives you the green card. But while the 485 is pending, it gives you employment authorization, it gives you advance parole, which allows you to travel, and you can also transfer your employer under AC-21 if you qualify and if you have a similar or same job. So a lot of benefits for filing a 485. Also, make sure that you are not restricted by your H1 visa. You don't have to be on a H1. There are a lot of restrictions on a H1. Wage restrictions, employment restrictions, which are not there when you file a 485. So the visa bulletin is extremely important, and for the month of March for EB2, it has moved forward by 4 months, and EB3 remains unchanged for India, and EB2 and EB3 for China also remains unchanged. So rapid forward movement of EB2, it was 6 months movement last month. The February visa bulletin showed a 6 months EB2 forward movement. The March visa bulletin is showing a 4 months forward movement. We're expecting rapid forward movement with the visa bulletin. We also have other updates which I will talk about later, but
Yes.
if your visa number is available, You can also go for interfiling, and we'll talk about that later.
Yes. So to start on the show, we already have a caller. His name is Kumar from Dallas. Mr. Kumar, you can ask your question now. Hello, Mr. Kumar.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you can ask your question.
Yeah, my question is, my nephew, he currently has done his LLM in International Arbitration and Risk Management from University of Law in London. Are there any chances to apply for an H1b over here for him? Is that possible, is my question.
Shivani, I couldn't hear the question at all.
Well, one of his nephew is studied in London, and now he's asking whether he could apply for an H1b. Is that correct, Mr. Kumar?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's the question.
Okay, sorry, a lot of static. So, yes, he can apply for H1, and this is a good time to do it because the H1b registration is opening up on March 1 and is closing on March 18th. So the prospective employer should register for him first between those dates as soon as possible, between March 1st and March 18th. And once the registration gets picked, if it gets picked in the lottery, there will be a lottery system for all the registered cases. And once it's picked, then he can file the H1b with USCIS, and you get 90 days to file the H1 once the lottery is picked.
Yes. Thank you, Kumar, for asking the question. Now, Ms. Prashanthi, let's get on to the topic. So, first, let us understand and let the viewers know what exactly is fiscal year H1Bs and how many are issued in a year.
Right. As I was saying earlier, H1Bs, there are a limited number of new H1Bs issued every year. And H1Bs, usually the number issued are 85,000, and 20,000 are reserved for master's candidates, US master's candidates, and the rest 65,000 are for bachelor's candidates. So what happens is there are two different lotteries held, because what happens is 85,000 is the total, but up to 200,000 or 250,000 applicants file in the beginning of the fiscal year, and so because they can't accept all the filings and because they have to have a way of eliminating some of the cases, they have a lottery system. So it's a computer generated lottery system, and the process is that this is a new process. Before, what would happen is everybody would file, and they would take the applications that were filed, put them through the lottery system, and then reject the ones that were not picked in the lottery. Now they have a better, more efficient system from the last 2 years. It's called the H1b Registration System, and as per this system, you are required to go to the My USCIS website portal, sign up, open an account, and register your case. And then once you register, and if the registration is successful, meaning if you register properly without any errors, and you're able to pay the fee, etc. on time, then the registration will be accepted, and then all the registrations will be put into the lottery. Instead of filing the entire application, now you only have to register. So it's some basic information that you have to enter to register. Once the lottery is done, then they will inform you via email, and also you can go and check on your portal whether your registration has been accepted. If it has been accepted, then you can file your H1B with the USCIS within 90 days. They give you 90 days to file from the date of acceptance. So generally, 4 times the number of people file. So the chances of acceptance is maybe 1 out of 4. So if a company files 4 applications, it's very likely that only 1 application will be picked. So that is kind of what we're looking at right now.
Yes. So Ms. Prashanthi, I was hoping if you could give us a brief introduction about how is the registration process and how it goes.
Sure. So as I said, you have to go to the myuscis.gov website, and you have to sign up, give your email address, create a password for yourself. There's a two-step verification process. You should go through the verification process. Provide password reset questions, your secret questions that you give, so that you have to give that and make sure you remember them. And the next step is to make sure you select the right category. There are many categories there. You have to select I am a H1b registrant. Do not select I am a H1b petitioner. Now, obviously, when I say you as the company, because employee cannot do this on their own, the company has to do it. So I'm addressing all those HR people and owners of companies that, file H1s or intend to file H1s this year. So you have to select I am a H1b registrant. And then if you have an attorney, then you should wait for the attorney to send you the code. So basically what you'll do is you'll send your email to the attorney, the email that you use to open or register your account. You'll send that information to your attorney. The attorney will prepare the application and they'll send you a passcode. So you should select, received a passcode from my attorney or representative. Then when you enter that, then you'll be able to look at the application that was prepared by your attorney. So you'll be able to review and accept that application. And once you review, accept, sign, and then you hit finish and send, and that information goes to your attorney's portal. Yeah, it's quite complicated. They have quite a good technical system going on here, but the attorney receives that confirmation and they submit the application for you.
Yes.
Now, if you want to submit on your own, you absolutely can do that. So instead of saying received a password, you should just say start a registration. So you can start the registration. There's some basic information that you need to enter, like the name of the your prospective employee. If you're applying under the master's quota or the bachelor's quota, as I told you, they're two separate quotas. Date of birth, country of citizenship, passport number of your employee. And if you're, and of course, there's some company information that's needed, the name of the company, the DBA name, that is doing business as name, the federal ID number, address. So all this information has to be entered, and then you can go ahead and submit your registration information. So that's, in a nutshell, information that's needed.
Yes.
So and just the basics of, yeah, sorry.
Yes. So Ms. Prashanthi, I was hoping, let's just imagine that somebody is doing the registration. What are some important points, according to you, everybody should put in their mind when they are registering?
Yeah, so some important points are, make sure you check your account. If you have your account from last year, log in and make sure it's active. Don't presume that it is, and until the last minute, then in the last minute, if your account doesn't work, then you will lose valuable time. So make sure you check in advance, because the registrations are opening on March 1.
Yes.
Also, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No problem. So also make sure that you create your account and give it to your attorney, the information. Only then the attorney enters the information into their account. If you do it the other way around and they enter the information first and then you create an account, it's not going to work. So the order of things is very important. And then make sure you select, as I said, I am a H1b registrant. Don't select I am a H1b petitioner. So it's important you select I am a H1b registrant. Otherwise, you will not be able to proceed with your registration. Make sure you use the email that you registered for. Give that same email address to the attorney, because they track it through email. So don't give a separate email, because then your attorney will not be able to register. If your employee doesn't have a first name or last name, usually what happens is the first name or last name is not written in the passport for some reason. Then just leave that part blank. Don't put acronyms like FNU or LNU or no name given. Just put in information that you have available. Remember, you cannot edit after you've submitted, so make sure that you don't make any typographical errors. You proofread all the information on your registration form, and you submit only after you make sure that everything is correct. Also, last but not the least, mention the name of your employee as per their passport. Make sure you don't make any errors in the spelling or the order of the name. The last name, first name, middle name has to be put in the same order as is mentioned in the passport. And last, also another point, make sure you clear the cookies, because this is, after all, it's a website. So always have to make sure that the cookies are clear so that you don't have any issues filling out that online form.
Yes. So, Ms. Prashanthi, why do you think a lot of people nowadays are going through some problems during the registrations? What are the common issues that they're going through right now, and what, according to you, should be done to resolve it?
Well, in the beginning, when the process first started, there were a lot of technology or bugs related issue, because it's all software driven, and things were not getting done. But now, from the technology point of view, I think the system is working well. But there are common errors that people make. For example, some problems that they have is, you have to register under master's or bachelor's gap. You have to choose whether it's a master's or bachelor's. And what's happening is that they register under master's, hoping that the applicant will complete their master's by the time that the H1 is going to be filed, and that doesn't happen. So you have to make sure, if you're registering under master's, that at the time you're filing the H1, you have the proper timelines in place, and you have to make sure that the master's is actually completed by the time the person is ready to file the H1. So that is not happening sometimes, and there are issues with reference to that. Also, there are issues sometimes with employers moving. They move addresses, and so they're worried that the registration address is different from the address that is going to be on the H1. Make sure that if that is the case, you document that properly. You show that you moved, you show the new address, you show the lease. So these are problems that people are having, but there are solutions to some of these problems. There are no solutions to typos. If you make some irrevocable, like for example, the other main issue is the payments don't go through. Now the registration, there's a fee, there's a $10 fee. And sometimes the banks, for whatever reason, they think it's fraud, or maybe you're using your credit card, it gets declined. A lot of employers are having that problem. So if that happens, the registration gets declined. So my solution to that is, make sure you register well in advance, so that if the bank declines it or credit card gets declined, you can always re-register, because you have enough time to re-register if it gets declined before the end date. So make sure you do that on time.
Yes.
Just feel free to interrupt me if there's a caller, but otherwise I can go on and on about
Yes,
what
sure.
is needed.
Yes.
Also, make sure that just be aware that you cannot have multiple people registering, meaning you cannot have multiple user IDs for one account. So only one person can use the system at a time. So make sure you're aware of that. If you have a lot of applications to be filed, my suggestion would be to open 2 accounts, but you have to use 2 email addresses, separate email addresses.
Yes.
Because the email is connected to the account, so you can't use it again.
Yes.
So that is, sometimes people have that problem. So ensure that if that's the case, and if you have a lot of cases to file, open 2 separate accounts.
Yes.
So that's definitely can be done.
Yes.
Sometimes the signature on the registration document might be a HR person who leaves. So the H1 petition is then signed by someone else, and a lot of employees wonder if that will be a problem also. And that should not be a problem, as long as the person who's signing the I-129 form is an authorized signator of the company. And finally, there are instances where employers register and then sell their company. And if that happens, then they often wonder if they can continue with the H1 if the registration gets picked.
Yes.
So in this instance, you have to document that the new employer is a successor in interest, meaning has purchased the previous company. And if you can document that via a sales agreement, etc., and all
Yes.
the necessary documentation.
Yes, Ms.
Then it
Prashanthi.
is possible
I'm
to
sorry
proceed.
for interrupting. There's a caller. His name is Mr. Reddy
Sure.
from Ohio. Mr. Reddy, you can ask your question now. Hello, Mr. Reddy.
My question, before my question, I would like to give some background information. I was on L1b for 3 years and switched to H1 in October 2020. My H1b petition is valid till September 30, 2023. However, my entry maxes out on April 26, 2023. So I'm finishing 6 years from my first entry to the US. So with that background, my question is, which date should I consider as my status expiration? Okay.
Shivani, again, you have to just repeat the question.
Even
What he's
even
asked, because I can't hear.
Yeah, even the voice here wasn't clear. So, Mr. Reddy, another question that I had in my mind was, you yourself are an attorney. So, what exact registration problems did you go through or did you deal with for your clients?
Shivani, I thought we'll try to answer the question first.
Yeah.
But I got a little bit of it. I just don't want to disappoint that person who
Yes.
called. So I think he's asking whether how you would measure the start date of his H1b. So basically, the date that you start working on a H1 in the US is the date that you have to start counting, and then count 6 years. And if the 6 years are over, then your H1 term is over. I hope that is your question. Or
Yeah.
you can just call back and maybe we'll have a better connection.
Yes. So, yes, Ms. Prashanthi, the question that I had was, you're yourself as an attorney. So, what exact registration problems did you go through and did you solve for your clients?
Yes, personally, we had a lot of technology problems in the beginning because we were trying to, access the client's account, trying to link the client's email with our account, and we had a lot of issues in the beginning. But I think now things have become smoother and we're not facing any of those technology issues. I think the only issue that most attorneys have is that clients will often, because of constraints that they have, will come to us in the last moment and ask for registration to be done. And everybody wants it done in the nth hour, and then attorneys then have difficulty because they have to do multiple applications within a short period of time and not make any errors, right? You can't afford to make any errors in the application. So I think the only message I have is that if you need a registration done, don't wait until the last moment. Whether your HR is doing it or an attorney is doing it, try and get it done before the mad rush starts.
Yes. So, Ms. Prashanthi, according to you, what do you think is the possibility of winning the lottery this year, especially because of the Corona 2023? So, what do you think is going to happen?
So, yeah, I think Corona has not really affected the number of applicants. It's still going strong. People's desire to come to the US has not diminished. Business is still going strong. So there will be, I'm presuming, a lot of applications like last year and the year before. So as I said earlier, there are 4 times the number of available applications are usually filed. Registrations are filed based on, compared to the number of H1b numbers available. So, I mean, your chances of getting are 1 out of 4, but if you're unlucky, because it is a lottery system, there are many beneficiaries or employees who have tried 3 times, 4 times, and they don't get into the lottery. So that, and sometimes people get it in the first shot. And I've also noticed that smaller companies are likely to get a higher percentage of pick. I don't know why that happens. And the more number of registrations you file, the lower number of picks you get. So smaller companies, and this is out of personal experience, I've noticed that smaller companies sometimes will get up to 50% of their applications picked when it should be 1/4, right? Based on just the mathematical calculation of 4 times the number. But sometimes they get 50%, and some of the bigger employees, instead of getting 30% picked, will only get 20% picked. So that's one observation that I have. Doesn't always work that way, but I've seen that it happens often that way.
Yes. So Ms. Prashanthi, are there any exemptions for the fiscal year cap this year?
There are always exemptions. So people who are exempted from filing under the cap. So that means the 85,000 numbers that we talked about is not for people who work for educational institutions and non-profit organizations. So non-profit higher education institutions, for example, companies that say hospitals who are affiliated to teaching associations, affiliated to colleges. So there are certain these organizations which are cap exempt. So if you're working for those organizations, then you don't have to worry about filing under the cap. You can file anytime.
Yes. Finally, we have a caller here. He is Venkat from California. Mr. Venkat, you can ask your question.
Prashanthi, my question is regarding citizenship. We had applied for our citizenship on May 2nd, 2020 from San Jose, and it was allotted to San Jose Field Office, California. However, we have not got our citizenship so far. The process, although we are beyond the processing time, and whenever we ask USCIS, they give all sorts of vague replies, and they send our applications to different people, but they never give any answer. It's 21 months since we are waiting for our citizenship, whereas those who are similarly placed got their citizenship within 8 to 10 months, but whereas our applications are pending beyond the processing times of 18 months, and our case date for expiry is much before the case date for expiry. But our receipt date is much before the case date for expiry. What recourse we have?
This unfortunately is a reality. Sometimes cases get knocked off from the processing line. They get backlogged. There are many reasons for this. It could be some mistake from the USCIS. More often it is because, the person who is working on your case might have left the job, and then that application goes to someone else, and by the time that person picks it up, there is a delay. I've seen that happen so many times, especially if you've been interviewed and if the officer left, then there's often delays. I see that. But I mean, the recourse that you have, it's not unusual. Sometimes, as I said, it takes up to 3 years to get citizenship. But I would suggest, of course, you are calling USCIS and you're following up with them and opening service requests. You can also use the Ombudsman's office.
Yes.
They can at least follow up with USCIS and give you updates that they get from USCIS. And you can also use your senator, your local senator or congressman for updates.
Mr. Venkat, if you have any more questions, you can contact the attorney directly. Sadly, we have to end the show right now. But it was wonderful having you, Ms. Prashanthi, with us again. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in. Thank you for the callers for calling. You're watching Sakshi TV with me, Shivani Raj.